And I can get, really emotional just thinking about what that journey was like, and knowing we came out the other side of that with what we have as a family is, wow, it's so powerful. So if we can do that, we could really do anything. And so it does give us confidence in ourselves and our relationship and what's possible.
So tell us, how did it begin? Like, what was the moment that was like, okay, this is not quite going to plan?
Well, we had many years of things not going to plan, but I think we really felt like we needed a different approach and to look at things from a new lens. After we've been trying for many years, but I had conceived naturally, but both ended in miscarriage,
Mm.
unfortunately. So we finally got to the place where we wanted to try a round of IVF, and we did that, and it was completely unsuccessful. And so, of course, after that unsuccessful round, our fertility doctor was immediately like, okay, here's what we do for round two. And I was like, what? Round two? Like, we just went through this whole experience. We have nothing to show for it except for less money.
Mhm.
And we want to just do it again. And so I'm like, before I go down this path again, like, I want to really truly try to figure out what the root cause is here and why I have been able to get pregnant, but it has not been a healthy pregnancy. And I really felt like IVF would be the answer because we
Yeah.
had gotten pregnant in the past. And again, it was not successful. So I really wanted to dig deeper and figure out what was going on before we did another round. And so we took a break from that. And I actually had heard about you, Gabrielle, on a podcast a few
Mhm.
months prior to your book launching, and I pre-ordered your book. And so that was
And I think that you're probably talking about
that
this
one,
book,
yes, Fertility
Fertility Breakthrough.
Breakthrough.
Okay.
And that
Yeah.
was early 2020. So I did my round of IVF March of 2020. So like right as the COVID times were really starting to unfold. And it was a very, I was actually lucky to do my round of IVF because many clinics were closing and it was a just very uncertain time. So after that failed, I just like dove into the book wholeheartedly and we were at home. We had all the time and space to really like fully dedicate our lives to following what was in the book. And then I wanted to sign up for the program, but I think at that time, again, I was like, well, they're in Australia, we're in the United States, like there's just no way. Like I, thought I would have to like physically see you. And I think that your company was doing telemedicine all around the world before everybody else was doing it. So
I
there was
have a lot. Actually, when we had the corded telephone, remember?
right,
Like
right.
that thing that people used to use? Yeah.
Yeah, so there was no like when we said, "Oh, we're in the U.S. and you're in Australia," they're like, "Oh, okay." So there was no hesitation there in terms of not being able to work out for us. So yeah, we were able to get on your. I think there was a waiting list, and we
Yeah.
talked with you, and then we waited for space to open up. And so there was maybe like 2 months that we just practiced everything in the book that you had written about in kind of preparation for meeting with a practitioner and getting assigned and starting the program. So that was sort of that's a very like fast forward to that abbreviated time where we like really got into the program. But yes, there was many years of just my own research that was felt like endless and always thinking I was going to find that one thing to make the difference. And um, I felt like I was so healthy and mindful about what I was putting in my body is a lot of things that you uh, describe in your book, but your book really took it to the next level and taught me things that I wasn't aware of. And so I think the thing that resonated with me the most was your expressing how you really left no stone unturned. It's like, we will figure it out. I promise you, we'll explore every avenue, every detail, every test until we have a path, maybe not an exact answer, but we'll have a strategy and a forward thinking way that we're going to approach this. Also, I don't remember the exact percentage, but your success rate was so impressive.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I had a lot of, or we, I guess what I felt like strikes against us at that point. I was 38 years old. I'd already had two miscarriages. I had failed IVF. And so I just felt like, I was a case that I needed help with.
Yeah, and you had been trying, was 6 years, right?
For
6 years
6 years. Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that's usually, when people have been trying for that period of time, it
Right.
feels like forever. And the thing about it too is how quickly the time flies. Oh,
Mhm.
and here's one we prepared earlier. One of two. But let's not spoil the story. Let's not, I
No,
always
I
spoil the
know.
story. Jeez. But anyway, so the thing about that though, which is interesting, and I believe that Spencer has like gone up. I want to hear from him how he
Yeah.
processed this whole situation. But we'll get him back when he comes back.
Yeah.
But the thing about it that's interesting, when I talk to someone like you, is the fact that there so many years have passed. It's almost like you start to go, how did it go so quickly? But at the same time,
Right.
how did it go so slowly?
Mhm.
That we're still not there yet.
Yes. And that I think was because I had gotten pregnant twice, like when I would see the doctor, it's like, well, we know you can get pregnant. We know it's possible. So just keep trying. We can't find
Yeah.
anything specific. We'd had done the testing that I knew of, that the doctor recommended, and everything was coming back okay, but it still wasn't happening. And when it wasn't successful. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how those years seemed to tick by. And because we just felt like, okay, we know we can hopefully get there, but
Yeah.
it's just a matter of time, sort of thing, which of course, looking back, and if anyone is ever willing to listen, I would have done that differently. I wouldn't have let that much time go by if I could do it again, just because I know
Yeah.
now that I know, that if that happens, there is something going on that really needs to be uncovered.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously you don't know that until you don't know. I often say to people, what's keeping you stuck is what you don't know, right?
Right.
And so that whole understanding that creates, oh, daddy, that creates the struggle most of the time. Spencer, how was it for you going through all of that? I mean, for a guy, supporting their partner through 6 years of infertility is not, and miscarriages is not, the easiest thing. And what was your kind of feeling or mindset around that time? And mind you, I did comment before on, the change of appearance in that time frame, but hey,
Sure.
she's gone, the hair shaved,
Yeah.
but we still
Lots of changes since then, for sure. Um, yeah, it can be very challenging. I mean, literally, you're living in lots of aspects of your life that may be going well, some better than others. And then there's this one in particular that, every month feels like a disappointment. And for us, 6 years, so 70 some odd months, to think about that,
Mhm.
increasingly so sometimes that you felt that, more than others, but it was certainly a perpetual cycle that was probably challenging in ways I haven't, fully comprehended or really considered.
Yeah, yeah. It's certainly. How did it impact your relationship as a couple?
Um, well, it was again, I feel like you kind of go through this up and down of like a few months you're really hopeful and you're in a better headspace and like
Yeah.
it's gonna be okay. And like, we're healthy, we have great jobs and families and friends. And so there's like so much to be grateful for. So you're like, this isn't happening. That means it's just not meant to be. But for me, it was never not in the back of my mind. It was always something I was thinking about. Any like free moment I would have, I was like, what podcast can I listen to? What research can I do? An article here, someone's testimony there, to try to find what I felt like was that like glimmer of a nugget of information that was gonna like, oh, okay, maybe this is the thing that I can try. And probably way too much like self-diagnosis that was going on for sure.
You
But
know,
for every
it's so understandable though, because when you're going to the doctors and doing all the things, and that you're just not being told. Like, how many times I'm sure you've been told in asking your doctor, okay, what can I do to improve my fertility?
Mhm.
And be told nothing, just IVF, right?
Right, yeah. But yeah, as far as our relationship, I think that, you know, everything was okay, but of course I was probably taking on, and not to Spencer's fault, but like taking on more of the responsibility, or like, again, until we really went through your book and your program of truly understanding that it is a 50-50 effort. Like, I can only control half of this equation. And so the other half, there's a whole other, Spencer's tests were always coming back great. He takes really good care of himself, but fine tuning what his contribution was also, like, I think, instrumental. And not that he wasn't willing to do that, but I guess I didn't know to ask him to do so until we were with the program and really honing in on sperm health just as much as my body and the health of my uterine environment, eggs, all that goes into it. So yeah.
How was it for you, Spencer, to realize that, because different guys have different responses to this, right? But how was it for you in witnessing what was happening, i.e. inability to conceive or miscarriages occurring? And
Sure.
what was going through your mind? Were you questioning the thing about, is there something I can do? Or was it just something that wasn't on your radar at all?
I don't think I had a true awareness of it. And, Emily did just an exhaustive amount of research on things, but and maybe just wasn't exploring this aspect of things, but looking at herself exclusively.
Mhm.
And I know that was extraordinarily difficult, but once she presented me with enough information for me to digest very quickly, it was almost wow, okay, I can do something like that. It almost felt like a relief or empowering to say, hey, I can be a factor in this. Like that in of itself was I don't know, some relief, or some, like we had a new purpose or renewed ability to affect our future in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so wonderful to hear, because often what I hear is like the guy going, yeah, I was dragged into that appointment and I didn't really want to be there. But then I realized, so it's lovely to kind of, hear the different nuances of how different, men kind of come to that understanding and to that awareness. But it's so interesting too, isn't it? Because like you've just mentioned something that I think is so critical for most people who are struggling or going through failed IVF cycles, is that the basic tests are done. We know that, okay, sperm count, motility, morphology, check. We've looked at those things. But what's not looked at usually is, how is that sperm functioning? Is there something else that we need to really understand in the underlying of what's going on? Because your situation, Spencer, when we started to look a little bit deeper, we realized that there were some additional things in terms of your sperm that hadn't been just, flying colors, everything is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Although the doctor was like, yeah, no, everything is normal,
Yeah.
So
Right.
how was that realization for you? Like, what is it that what did you discover as a part of going through what you did?
Just in that, I guess my mindset with like the initial testing that I'd done maybe prior to working with y'all would be, okay, this is the result. And like, just that's the result. And like, if I take the test, like it's going to be that in a consistent way. And just essentially, I don't have any really power to change that. So that was, really interesting to come to the program and understand, hey, there are protocols and, lifestyle activities, environmental factors that you can control to, really improve your sperm health. See some of those, physical changes in health on the exterior that the world can see, but there's also some really significant changes happening inside your body, including in a place that it counts the most.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's so interesting, isn't it? And like in the general kind of workups that are done in fertility, like, infections are usually not looked at. What's really even so fascinating is that so many men will come to us either not having had a semen analysis after years of infertility. Imagine that, And the other thing that often happens is that they will have had no blood tests done whatsoever. So it's like, hang on a second, what are the hormone levels doing? Are there issues that we need to address? And obviously in your case, we understood that, okay, there was definitely some low testosterone we needed to look at. There was some things that could have been improved that really, by doing that, changed a lot of the way in which the body was able to, exactly as you were speaking about, change the way that the body actually reacted and responded to things. And I think that that's also such an important thing, for understanding, like you said, to be told that there's nothing you can do when really the answer is that we haven't looked deep enough to understand what can be done is really disheartening. And I think so many people fall into that, believing that because the doctor said, we've done all the tests, which are by no means comprehensive. And everything looks normal. And I kind of go, hang on, did we miss do we understand that what's normal is you have sex, you get pregnant, you have a baby? That's normal. And if it hasn't happened in that way, there's something or many things really that need to be understood. So, okay, so you gave me a bit of an overview. You also had done some IUI cycles in those 6 years, right? So there was...
And those were, again, none of them of which were successful. I also took Femara many cycles. And I had gotten pregnant using Femara, but those pregnancies ended in miscarriage. So it was like, we were like, well, then we'll try the IUI. And so we tried that. And again, I had a lot of, I don't know, I just wasn't ready to go down the path of IVF because those pregnancies that I had just gave me, and it's like, no, I know it can happen. And I almost wish I would have tried IVF sooner because I think it would have forced us to get some more in-depth testing, other things that we kind of found out along that way. But I mean, it's here nor there. However, I think if I would have had a failed IVF cycle sooner in my journey, I maybe would have been like, wait a minute, there is really something underlying here that we need to uncover, and hopefully would have come across your program sooner, like because I was at such a place of honestly desperation when I did discover the program. And it was just, I wish that I could have surrendered and released what I felt like was my responsibility to figure out much sooner.
It's interesting, isn't it? And I think that that's where the place of self-compassion really comes in as so important to withhold, right? Or to hold on to, because what can so many times happen is that you are doing everything right? You're going to the appointments, you're doing the things that you're being told. And it's not your fault that you're not actually being given the right information. Unfortunately, the healthcare system is structured in fact, we can't call it healthcare, we have to call it sickness care, right? Because it's structured in such a way that's not really looking at, okay, how can we optimize what's going on? And when we have a situation like yours where, you responded incredibly well to your IVF cycle, there was 12 follicles, 6 eggs, 5 fertilized, you ended up with 3 embryos, 3 blastocysts. And, at the end of the day, you think, hang on a second, if I'm not able to conceive, which obviously you had, and you had, your miscarriages had occurred. But if I'm not conceiving because the egg and the sperm aren't meeting, that's one thing, right? And you kind of go, okay, the answer then becomes making sure that the egg and the sperm meet. But when you go and do IVF and you end up with, even if it's just one embryo, and you have that embryo transferred and you still see no positive pregnancy test, or you see a chemical pregnancy, or you end up miscarrying, you know that it's not actually to do with the egg not meeting with the sperm, right? Exactly. But then what happens in the general kind of, grand scheme of things is like, oh yeah, this was a good result. You ended up with eggs and follicles and babies and blastocysts and all of that. And so, let's just do another cycle. Right. Which is exactly what you said, right?
That's what they said. They're like, oh, the first one is really, we're just kind of learning your body. And I'm like, oh, I thought that first round was like, we were going to have some, we were going to get from this, not just see what happens. But that was very eye-opening for me to understand that it was just kind of, and that my protocol was pretty standard and there wasn't anything they're like, oh, we'll probably tailor a few things next time, but it'll pretty much just be like, just like what we did before, but just throwing more odds at it, more chances by doing it again.
It's so funny. It actually makes me laugh because imagine had you gone to that first appointment, and Spencer, I love your reaction on this as well. Imagine you had gone to that first appointment and the doctor at the outset had said to you, the first cycle is just going to be about learning your body, right? Don't expect a baby out of this situation.
Yeah.
Would that have been different?
Exactly. We'll be like, we'll take our $20,000 and go towards the door.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? I just kind of go like, it's incredible how after the fact, it's all well and good. Hey, we're just learning your body. It's like, really?
Wow. Okay.
Okay. But not to hate on technology. I mean, I love IVF. I think that, there are people who are never going to conceive without it. But I think that, again, unless we really get to the bottom of why is this happening? And, like when we haven't even looked at, do we have infections? Do we have sperm issues? Do we have immunological components? All of which were present in this case, right? After 6 years and multiple cycles, the IUI and whatever that didn't work, then you kind of go, but hang on a second, should you have looked at that before we went down and paid $20,000? Like, I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to me. But tell me, so then what was the moment that you kind of went, I mean, obviously, you decided to have the appointment and have the conversation to see if the program would be something that happened for you. But what do you think was the moment that clicked with you that said, okay, I need to do something different?
I think knowing that like we were going to have a person that was just fully focused on our two individuals and our case together, that like there was going to be, just 100% tailored, specific to us, and look at our test results time and time again and keep figuring out what we needed to continue to peel back in terms of the layers of the onion until we knew what path to take. And of course, we along the way had some really great doctors and physicians that helped us, but we're not able to really look into our case with the depth that your practitioners were able to. Also, just the whole approach to it, like environmental, physical, mental, we had like the spiritual counseling, like there were so many elements to it that just, it felt like holistically, like looking at it from every angle. And of course, you're only getting snippets of somebody's time or more of like a clinical approach from, the doctors. Oh, sorry, we had a little spit up there.
Sure.
So yeah, I just loved that it was really taking into account all factors and that we were just going to have a consistent one-on-one with somebody at your practice.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Spencer? What was the thing that kind of made you go, right, this is the next step?
Really to kind of echo what Emily said there, I mean, a lot of the principles and concepts that, we learned about from your book and your practice there, and just how we can affect things, and just all, whether it's environment, nutrition, exercise, like whatever it might be. I mean, all things that would have positive outcomes on your health, regardless if you had interest in fertility or not. I mean, all those things made complete sense. And then, as Emily said, the opportunity to combine that with really an acute focus, on our particular case, at as an extraordinarily detailed level, from genetics to blood work to, of course, semen analysis, and then just customized protocols that helped us, obviously. But we could have uncovered absolutely anything with us, and it could have been a combination of, okay, we thought we utilized the practice, improved our fertility capability to the greatest extent possible, and still gone to IVF, right? I mean, that's, but at least we would have prepared ourselves as well as we possibly could to help make that outcome as positive as it could be. So yeah.
And that was our plan with the second baby, was to do IVF, with, again, just our history, age, just feeling like, we wanted to not spend another extended time. And So again, like Spencer said, we felt like the program, it brought so many things to our lives that we will never go back to the way we were before. Just positive changes that are going to make us hopefully live as long as possible so that we can have as much time as we can with the babies that we have.
Yeah, and quality time, having quality of
Mhm.
life. I think that that's such a big and important thing. So many people underestimate the red flag that an infertility diagnosis actually is,
Right.
and the reasons as to why miscarriages occur. I mean, A&A, if we don't
Yeah.
address that, what ends up
Mhm.
happening is that strokes are more likely later down the track.
Mhm.
And, all of those things are
Right.
factors that are going to improve your life and the way that you live. So
Mhm.
I think that it's such a wonderful, kind of summary of and reason to really focus and commit to understanding what's going on, in terms of your health. What were some things that surprised you along the way? Like when you got into the program, what were things that you kind of like, oh, I didn't think that, or I didn't expect that, or, like what surprised you?
The one that always sticks out in my head is the like the dry wicking material, like of athletic clothes. I remember
Mm.
that was like a list of a no. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like half of my running gear. It was like the whatever is put into those fabrics to make them so that, the sweat just doesn't, so it's not basically cotton, toxic.
That was surprising.
Yes.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that comes to mind. Oh, we did a whole like through our HVAC, like we had those cleaned, like our ducts and our house cleaned, and there was mold. So basically,
Wow.
like all the airflow that was coming through our attic and then out of our vents for our air conditioning was passing through like mold that was happening in there. The We found mold in our washing machine, like just things like that we did with the environmental protocol that we had to go through. So that was, something that I remember thinking, wow, I would have never thought about, cleaning out the ducts in our attic to potentially
Yeah.
improve my fertility.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's
Mhm.
fascinating how
Yeah.
sometimes it's very difficult if it's not your area of expertise to kind of put these things together, right? So,
Right.
yeah, and all the research in the world is not usually going to be as comprehensive. So, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
What about you, Spencer? What were some surprises on your end?
That eliminating caffeine was more difficult than giving up alcohol.
So that was a realization.
Yeah, it's you go withdrawals from both simultaneously. Yeah, caffeine is a powerful substance. I'll say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What were some things that you absolutely loved that you kind of went, oh my God, this I just cannot live without anymore. I can't unknow.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
Just
Go ahead.
again, things like in the environment, the cookware selection, just like, once you have that in your mind, like there's no, going back to, I don't know, other styles of
Mhm.
cookware or utensils or just things like that, that now, seems to be more prominent or prevalent level of awareness, but certainly not to the degree that, we had 5 years ago, even.
Yeah. Yeah.
Loved the recipes, the very spelled out, here's what we were eating, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I was like making all my own nut milks, and that was great. I will say the first time, you've got that time. Second time, a little harder because of
Yeah.
your.
Yeah. Yeah, second time you've got your hands full.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There are a
But
few more things that I found that had to be store bought.
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, I think that it all comes down to doing your best, right? And sometimes your best is going to change and vary according to the challenges ahead. But it's I think it's wonderful to be able to go, okay, I can think about, even when I do buy something that's store-bought, I can think about what are the ingredients that go in it and how else do I, kind of navigate this, which is also wonderful. What was challenging? What was something that, and it might be around your entire journey, it might be in the time that you were in the program, like what was something that you still kind of touch on that is like, wow, okay, that was hard?
I think that like what I found to be the most challenging, sometimes it was getting like all the testing coordinated. Like that was, I ended up finding a nurse practitioner at my OBGYN who was just amazing, but it took me a couple times to get to a person that was like not giving me an eye roll.
Yeah.
So that was sometimes challenging to get that. But then once I found her, then she was like honestly helping me she's like, oh, okay, here's how we can kind of mold this into helping you out in the situation. Just very receptive. And then also herself was like, well, I'm going to find a way to figure out to shut my Wi-Fi off at night too. Like I've got 3 kids at home. Like I don't want them to be exposed to this. And I'm like, I know, right? Once you really start digging in, it can be alarming. But what would you say? But the caffeine, definitely. I remember like day 3, again, we were like both working at home because it's COVID, and I like walked by where Spencer's working. I could just tell by the look on his face. I was like, ugh, we're withdrawing here. He was not happy.
Like, stay away.
Yeah, I'm going to keep my distance here. This is all my, mostly my idea. So
I love that. I don't want to be blamed. Let me just, keep walking.
Yeah. I mean, I guess on a different note is for the second time around, we were able to conceive relatively quickly in the program first time, and this time was not the case. And then when we did, we had a miscarriage, and then if 4, 5, 6 months passed, and still weren't getting that result. So that was, we definitely lost some confidence or kind of belief in ourselves at that time, and we're questioned if we would follow through with it and those kind of things. So I think we were not that we didn't expect a different experience. We knew there's no guarantees, and we know all those things logically, but to actually experience it in it, was something altogether different. So that was a real challenge. For sure.
Yeah, that would be. And it's interesting because in a situation like what you guys had, which is, addressing all of these things, you think, okay, well, I've already addressed all the things that I need to address. And what I think sometimes people forget is that the second time around, you are a completely different person again.
Right.
You're like, you've given birth to a child, which has depleted you in so many ways, which has made your immune system completely overreactive, and we have to calm that down again. People kind of take for granted a little bit this idea that, like, okay, we've done this now, we've created our baby, we've gone through the program, we've succeeded. And then they go, well, we don't need to do this again.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, we've done it. And it's like, well, actually, you are now a completely different person. So, and even just from the passing of time, it's a completely different situation. You came into the program when you were 38 the first time.
Right.
And as a young chicken,
Yeah, right.
And then the second time, what was your age when you came back for the second one?
I would have been, I guess, 41.
Yeah.
Right? 42. No, 42. Well,
42,
when we started the program, I would have been 41 because then I turned 42 when I had the second miscarriage. Like it was
when you had the second miscarriage
during my birthday, and I remember thinking this is one of the worst birthdays ever. So yeah, like you say, different and harder in that way because I think the second time we did feel more of like okay, we're in our 40s now. Whereas even we were still our late 30s, but like I said, the only time I was
Still
ever
a spring chicken.
ever called young ever in my whole journey was by my practitioner in your practice, who was the only, otherwise I was, the first thing that they would say to me is like, well, you're 34. And I'm like, I know, and so anyways, but yeah, we would have been, but then I turned 43 in February, and then I had the second baby in March. So I was 43 when I had Barrett, and it was, again, we were really giving it like one last ditch effort before starting IVF. I was like waiting for my cycle to start and to call the doctor to order my medication. And we were like excited about it. We were excited to do IVF because we'd been through the program and we're so much better equipped to go through it this time than we were the first time, with not only better health, but better expectations. So I was kind of, and I think that has a lot to do with it too. It's like you're in a different headspace of like, last time I was like white knuckling it. I'm like, this has to work. This has to be the thing. This time I was like, okay, this is, we're going to try this. We've given it our best effort and the result will be what it is. And ended up, I wrote this in the thing too, is that our practitioner was like, okay, well, just make sure you're taking pregnancy tests before this next cycle, just to make sure. And I remember thinking, I don't want to do that. Like, I'm in this good headspace. I don't want to see a bunch of negative tests. I've seen that for years. I'm doing IVF for the second time, and I just want to be like, I'm in a good place. I don't want to look at a bunch of negative tests. So I was like, it was over the weekend, I'm like, oh, well, I forgot to do that this morning, because, usually your first morning urine. And so I'm like, I'll just go take one in the afternoon, and just kind of checked it off my list type of thing. And then went back to I was like, there's no way. There's literally no way this is positive, because it's only like, 8 days past ovulation. It's too early. I just did this test in the afternoon. There's no way. And sure enough, like, that is this human right here. It's just so wild. So wild.
It's fascinating because it's so easy. I remember once I had a lady who I treated who had been trying to get pregnant for 19 years.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah. So, by the time she came to me, she was 43. And, it was like 19 years of like negative everything, IVF and all sorts of different things. And what was interesting, she might be watching us, but what was interesting about that case was that when I said to her, she basically said to me, oh, look, how are you going? Oh, I'm not feeling very well. Like things have kind of worsened again since we've started. I was feeling great and now I'm just not feeling that great. And, my cycles have been irregular again and I still haven't got my period. And I'm like thinking, okay, all right. And everything she's saying, I'm thinking, pregnancy symptom, pregnancy symptom, pregnancy symptom. I said, pregnancy test? She goes, oh, don't be ridiculous. I'm not pregnant.
Right.
So here's the thing. And she said to me, she said, listen, I haven't gotten my I'm late, but she had PCOS, right? So she's like, I'm late and it's been 8 weeks since I've had a period. I'm like, okay. So we need to make sure that we've got a pregnancy test.
Right.
To go get a pregnancy test and do it. And she was like, I'm not doing it. Okay. So I call her husband and go, listen, that's such and such. And she go, and so, eventually we got the pregnancy test. Of course, it was positive. Right? And 13 weeks pregnant.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So I wasn't feeling well,
Yeah.
So it's so interesting. It's so fascinating when I hear these stories where people are like, no, I don't want to know. I don't, they've been doing all the things, and it's just like, no. But back to you, and I think that one of the really fascinating things here is that after 6 years, 3 IUIs, 1 IVF, first baby, Wolfie, was a natural conception.
Was.
So that went.
That was also amazing too, because we were in the period where we were not supposed to be trying. And so we really weren't. We were doing our like 120 days where we were, and again, like that was another like relief. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have this break of like, we are purposefully not trying to get pregnant right now while we do this. And I think that the supplements I was at that point on, like the herbal tonics, like just totally changed my body, and that we were not as careful because I just completely thought I was outside of my fertile window. So we had gone out of, again, it was the summer of COVID. We had gone out of town. I remember I packed like plenty of pads because I'm like, I'll be getting my period. We were going to be gone for like a month. We went to the mountains, and Spencer and I were like on a hike, and I'm like, I know this sounds crazy, but like I haven't got my period. And it was like, and I mean, we were, nowhere near a doctor, nowhere near anything that we could have even, I had to like drive down the mountain to get a pregnancy test like 2 days later. And it was positive. It was just sort of unbelievable then. And I remember being like, I was like, well, I have to email the practitioner and tell her, and almost like, I don't know. I was just befuddled as to how to explain, because I'm like, I know we're not supposed to be trying, and I swear we were not. But somehow this has happened. But I will say,
So,
even though we were new to or like 6 weeks in, we had been implementing everything from the book for several months, like until we had started with our practitioner. So we really did do the like 120 days. It just wasn't officially like on the books.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fascinating that we see this very often where, and the only reason, depending on specific cases, we may not stop somebody from trying to conceive until we only do in a situation like yours where we've had miscarriages and we
Right.
need to understand what's going on in terms of that. Because
Mhm.
what happens is that, imagine this, if you have a miscarriage for 8 weeks, and I don't know, how long were your miscarriages into, Emily, when you...
They were all around the same time. They were all about 7 weeks.
Yeah. So this is
Which
the
is,
thing. It takes
yeah,
exactly. It takes another 7 weeks to get back to baseline. So let's say
right,
that's
exactly.
4 months later. Let's say
Mhm.
that you get pregnant really quickly, which
Mhm.
6 months is like amazing, right?
Right,
Some people don't, but let's say that you
right,
do, then that's 10 months down the track.
exactly. Yeah.
10 months. Imagine then you go and you get pregnant again and you have another miscarriage. We're 12
Right,
months down the
right.
you know. So in a
Mhm.
situation experience miscarriages, we're going to be really cautious to, and in fact, all of our patients for the first month, we're like, okay, let's test,
Mhm.
let's what it is that we need to optimize and where we need to change things, because
Right.
otherwise we're repeating more of what hasn't
Yes.
worked for
And I was
longer.
the same. And I remember thinking when I was like, oh, I really hope that, this works out, because I don't want to have to, because I had been through that and I knew, I mean, how long it takes. Yeah, like you say, sometimes almost 8 weeks for my cycle to start again, for the HCG to completely drop below whatever the level it needs to be. And that's frustrating too, when like you really want to feel like you're moving forward and you have to like, there's nothing that can get you there except for time.
Exactly. And, this is why I always say to people, I say, listen, the only shortcut is doing all of the work.
Right. Mhm.
There's trying to kind of make things happen sooner. If you haven't put the foundations in place, there's always going to be a challenge. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about, so obviously then Wolfie was, a beautiful pregnancy, beautiful baby. Anything that you would say in terms of like, how that unfolded from the positive pregnancy test? Was it what you expected? Or was it
It
different?
was. It was amazing. I loved it. I loved being pregnant and going through that whole experience. I will honestly say, like, I felt different. Like of course it's always in the back of your head, like if this doesn't work out, but I knew that I was just like in a different care space that time. Like I mean, we just like jumped into action. I was taking progesterone suppositories and baby aspirin, and I did an autoimmune protocol, again, just as like a precautionary measure. So yeah, it was amazing.
And then, of course, he was born. How old is Wolfie now?
He's 4.
He's 4. Oh,
Yeah.
such a cute age. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So then how quickly after you had him did you decide to go back on the program?
It was probably 2 years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, the rest is history, really. We kind of heard that story kind of the other way around, which is wonderful. And, like, I think that what's so brilliant in a situation like yours is knowing that you did that, it's like you've gone through what was so incredibly challenging. 6 years, 4 miscarriages, so many things that so many. And I think one thing that Emily spoke about before, I don't know how you feel about this, Spencer, but she was saying how the second time around she was a little bit more resigned to whatever the outcome was going to be, whether the IVF cycle worked or if it didn't. I think that there's part of that's kind of like, okay, we already have at least one baby, so the pressure of it is not the same as not yet having a child. How did you experience that?
Some of that. I mean, we were obviously just so extraordinarily thankful to have Wolfie, and then almost felt guilty in a way, wanting more. Sometimes, like when it wasn't working, for sometimes. But yeah, there was a level of like, well, we're so incredibly blessed, and if we could go back in time and you could have said, if you could have just one baby, would you have had him? Of course, the answer would have been, of course. If we could do that, like, we're done. So again, it was just a sense of we still wanted more. And we would have been okay if it hadn't worked out ultimately. But we're just so thankful and blessed that it did.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you actually find out about Barrett's pregnancy? It was just before, it was that whole thing, wasn't it? That Emily was just saying it before. It was just about to go to IVF, and then it was a natural pregnancy.
Truly, nothing like the threat of medical intervention to kick things into gear, I suppose.
I mean, that worked out pretty well, 2 babies. After all of this and thinking that, like, okay, we have to do everything else as well. And then we ended up with 2 natural conceptions and 2 beautiful babies. I mean, they're so gorgeous. It's like, oh my God.
Thank you.
I know because obviously I've seen Wolfie before. He's not around, but I thought he was kind of running in the back there for.
He is. He's set up watching Australia's second best export behind Fertility Breakthrough.
Wolfie, Bluey, right?
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, we lost Emily, but I want her to come.
Yeah, I know we've constantly been in and out, but it's definitely trying to tend to the little family here. So.
Totally understand, and thank you so much for accommodating. But we have to bring her back because I do want the words that she would like to say for these beautiful boys and both of you, really. Like if you actually, I have one last question, which is this. If you had your time again, what is one thing you would have done differently? What's one thing that you would have done exactly the same?
What the biggest thing I would have done differently is not feel like or take on the responsibility of thinking I had to figure it out on my own. Like that it was my job to get to the bottom of things. It's my body. I need to be like, just, I would have been more open about like what was going on with us and what was, really bothering me, and just the whole aspect of it. I wouldn't have just taken so much of it on myself. So I would have reached out to more people and just gotten more support emotionally, physically, all that sooner, rather than just like kind of harboring going through what felt like a very isolating experience for a lot of time. I would have been like more open about the fact that I had had miscarriages. It's actually now more common to speak with somebody, or I feel like it's more common that it has happened than it has not when you talk to somebody about it. So that's something I would have done differently, something I would have not changed at all. In a lot of ways, like the experience of the challenge, because I think it's like made me a different person. It's made me a different parent. Although, of course, I would have loved to have tried to get pregnant and been happily surprised when it happened in the first and second time 10 plus years ago. But I think that my experience makes me the best version of myself, and therefore the best version of myself for my children, I will say.
Love,
Yeah.
love that one.
There's a deep appreciation and gratefulness that I have that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And of course, if it happens easily for people, they love their kids too, and it's not to discount that by any means, but it definitely, there are choices and decisions that I make now as a mother that I think my experience and journey have influenced, for sure.
No, I agree 100%.
Mhm.
What about you, Spencer? What's one thing that you would have done differently, and what's one thing that you would have never changed?
I mean, to echo what she said, really, like for me personally, having investigated myself sooner as far as, what I could do to contribute to things. And again, like you say, it's like you get the sperm test back and it's like, hey, this is fine, and well, what does fine really mean? And there's obviously just a level of detail that I wasn't aware of. But now that I am, certainly if I'd had that information before, it would have been incredible to start sooner. But yeah, to not change is really what Emily says. I mean, I can get really emotional just thinking about what that journey was like, and knowing we came out, the other side of that with what we have as a family is, wow, it's so powerful. So if we can do that, we could really do anything. And so it does give us confidence in ourselves and our relationship and what's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely, I mean, I can wholeheartedly say I've never worked at anything harder than having children. I mean, sorry for my employer, but it's true. But again, it just sort of gives you a perspective on how, like, it is, like the miracle of it all, but it's also like just hard work and being resilient and just an unwavering dedication to making it happen. And if you apply that to anything else in your life, like you're unstoppable. Yeah.
Beautiful, loving words that you'd like to leave your beautiful boys, baby boys and bigger boys, but your beautiful.
I would say that this part makes me emotional when I think about that, but that, everyone always thinks this and feels this, but as painful as it was and as difficult as the journey was, I would experience every loss, every, just hardship that we did for it to be them, they are the two that I'm supposed to have. And even though I couldn't see through that, and it was hard to ever imagine what this day would feel like back when we were going through everything, I just want them to know that they were worth every single thing every effort, everything we put ourselves through, because it's so worth it. Like there was nothing harder that outweighs the joy of having them here. So just thanks for sticking with us.
Spencer, what do you want to say to your boys?
Well, I didn't prepare this part, but that, as you can hear, it just right. But as you just heard from her, I mean, these two are so incredibly fortunate to have such a committed mother, to number one, to have gotten them here in the first place, but just the unwavering commitment and love she has for them is just truly special and powerful to watch. Yeah.
What do you want them to know from you?
Yes, it was worth it. It just was. And I even think back to those darkest days, and I would do it again, just to experience what I know. And I knew that all along. It's what I never could, just even though I had all the reasons to be like, okay, maybe I just need to let this go, move on with my life, forge a different path, different interest. There's so many other ways to find joys in your life. But there was just always something in my heart, in the back of my head, that knew that I just couldn't I couldn't give up, and I didn't want to stop even when, I mean, after I had like the fourth miscarriage, I was like, no, I just know that I am meant to have more than one child. Like, I just can't explain it, but it's just something that it feels so true to me that even if I'm putting myself at the risk of more pain, I still want to keep trying. And it was worth it.
Look, I think that, you guys are so brilliant, and the commitment and the determination that it takes to do what you guys did. And, the beautiful family that you have obviously is living proof of your effort and everything that you've put towards, making this happen. I did say this to you when we talked behind the scenes last, couple of weeks ago, that my patients truly are my heroes, and you guys, like, really, truly, you inspire me every single day. Every single day I get up and I go, let's change some lives today because of people like you. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, we feel the same about our experience with your program. We tell anybody who's willing to listen about it, like, it's, and it's just been for us, like, just life-changing in more ways than we can even count. Of course, the children are the goal, but like, again, there are aspects that we learned on the program that we'll never, we'll always live that way, and we'll always have that mindset because, again, we're just better versions of ourselves because we're truly focused on like having healthy bodies, still leaving some room for that soul still there.
Absolutely. It's
Again,
essential.
yes, essential. But that's like the whole point, now we can hopefully have longevity so that we can enjoy our children and see them grow and have their lives unfold as well. And so we just feel so grateful. And I guess I would say to anyone who's like in the thick of it that it's just, I know how hard it is to continue to like have a disappointment month after month or feel like you're not getting the answer that you need. But just like keep at it, because I think that it will reveal itself in some capacity. You will, and sometimes that's the decision to close the chapter and do something else, like they can be that too. But I really feel like it's worth it to keep pursuing it if you know that that's what you're meant to have. Yeah. This is
Here we have another star.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. It wasn't. Hey, you surely remember this accent.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
Like, yes, you've heard this before. Well, thank you for joining us. It's beautiful to have you here. And your mum and dad love you so much. So much. You have no idea. They've just spent the last 1 hour telling me all about how much they love you.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, guys, thank you so much. It's such a, every single time I do one of these conversations, my heart is just like so full, because it's so beautiful to be able to be part of these stories and a part of your family, forevermore. So thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. Yes.
Truly a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. We appreciate it so much. Wonderful work that you do. And all of your whole team has been just delightful.
Thank you.